Hey guys, it's Troy Casey, certified health nut. In an effort to bring you more fun, freedom, and phenomenon, welcome back to the show. Today I have Jonathan Otto. He's been on the show before. If you haven't seen my interview with him last December on urine therapy, go ahead and scroll back and make a note for that and watch that video because it's very eye-opening. And Jonathan is an investigative journalist. He's worked on quite a few big programs, Truth About Cancer, Truth About another injection situation. And so he's been around the block as an investigative journalist. He's got a lot of awesome work out on the internet. Jonathan, welcome back to the show. I really appreciate you showing up. Today, we're going to talk about red light therapy and all the good benefits that you are seeing in the literature. I now have a red light machine from you, and I've been sitting in front of it. And so before we get into that, go ahead and give yourself a little bit of introduction so the people get to know you a little bit better.
Thanks so much for having me, Troy. I appreciate you, man. And I love the synergy. I love what you're doing, and I love the fact that you're so focused on solutions for people. So my background, investigative journalism, I completed a couple of degrees that had that focus and education, various aspects. But my focus then went from the humanitarian work, which I continue to do, but into these mechanisms for why people are suffering, why are people unwell, what's the most breakthrough science. And I struggled a lot with my health as a kid. I had like a whole ton of issues, from Lyme disease to all the different blood viruses, and I suffered a lot as a child, and so I kind of had to work it all out. Otherwise, my life was going to be ruined. And so I'm just grateful for what I have, and I'm grateful that it's landed me in this moment right now to give solutions to people that actually do work.
So I've been using the red light therapy that you recommended for me for the past 4 weeks or so, and usually when I'm doing podcasts and or coaching clients, I'll sit in front of it. Now, you talked about it penetrating about 4 inches into the body. Can you talk a little bit more about that? And what's it doing to my organs, my glands, and my cellular structure?
Yeah, awesome. So it's really interesting that with red, it's in this optical range. So everyone is talking about red light now. At least it's going around, and people don't really know the difference between an infrared sauna, which is far infrared. They think, okay, maybe this is a similar thing, but it's actually very different because it's a different wavelength of penetration. Far infrared is actually deeper, and so you'd think it's better, but all these studies that are coming out that are showing the blockbuster results, and I'm sure you've been in saunas before, but the results that you had with your back pain, which did you mention that? That's an amazing result. Yeah, it's great. You're on fire, man. It's powerful, right?
Well, I love the way it makes me feel. And yes, I had some issues. Look, I'm approaching 60. I was exposed to mold. I do have some aches and pains, some weirdo arthritis that I deal with. And the red light therapy has helped me feel amazing. And so I wish I had the panels all around me, but I'll sit in front of it for about a half an hour each day. I wish I got more on my face, but it seems like I can get more work, especially I'm doing something like this, talking to somebody online. I can get it penetrating my kidneys because I felt, I've had varying degrees of exhaustion from the mold exposure. So it's really helped my kidneys. It's helped warm up my tissues, and just overall a general sense of well-being.
Wow, that's amazing. And so to answer your question in light of that, it's because of these optical wavelengths that are interfacing with your body that far infrared doesn't do. And red and near infrared are the star players, and there are other colors and wavelengths that are also good, like even blue as an example, which you'll see some of the blue there because you've got benefits with circadian rhythm. You can kind of work, you can't quite work it out with the camera. You can see it with your eye, you can see the blue, right?
Yes.
But I can't see it through this camera here. But what it's doing is it's going into the cells, and in simple terms, it's feeding the cells with what they need. And you kind of think that your body needs food and water and obviously oxygen, but people don't really think about that, how important oxygen is. But light is such an important aspect of what the cells arguably need more than anything else. It's on par with oxygen, and so we see all the chronic conditions come out when people then they don't have access to the sun, or they've been told not to get anywhere near the sun, and then you accelerate all those benefits when you put a red light in your home, and it's to do with feeding the mitochondria with what these like bean-shaped organisms inside of our cells, which are the powerhouse of the cells. They need light to then produce what is the onflow of it's adenosine triphosphate, ATP. They produce this, and by producing this, they're producing energy for the cells so that you feel energy, but it's to do with the fact of what happened in your cells.
So it's real energy. It's not something like caffeine that actually is a stimulant, but robs you of your energy. So this actually feeds the cells.
Yeah, exactly. We should always be thinking about what's going on inside the cell, not how do I drink this thing that gives me energy, but what it actually does is block your receptors that make you feel tired. So you don't feel as tired for a moment. You just blocked the receptors that made you feel tired. So you actually didn't get any energy. It's not an energy drink. It's false. It's fake news. It's not real. It doesn't give you energy. It makes you have an illusion that you're not tired, and then you come down harder after it. But if you fed yourselves what you need, you genuinely have energy. No, and most importantly, that your body needs energy for healing. And so you're trying to put a condition in remission. You're battling the things you mentioned with mold and back pain. And then all of a sudden, the energy in the cells then gets to work with solving those issues, which has everything to do with clearing out junky cells. I'm using like street talk here. Let's use the medical term: senescent cells, cells that are not replicating properly, that are not maturing properly, that need to be cleared out. And then so it's like, yeah, I've just got these issues, I got this pain. Well, you need healthy cells there. They need to be fed. And what happens with red light, one of the main mechanisms is it's the electromagnetic waves is feeding your cells to cause them to produce oxygen, which is all linked to the mitochondria because and the adenosine triphosphate, because it's part of the respiration system of the cell, and it's part of the phases. Okay, now that's deep, but most importantly, you're producing then oxygen. That oxygen, it's called reactive oxygen species, like singlet oxygen, which is actually naturally red, by the way. And it causes these miniature explosions in the body, destroying all these diseased and dying cells. And all of a sudden you feel amazing because you cleaned out the junk, you fed the healthy cells with what they needed, they matured into normal healthy cells, the turnover is happening, you're feeling amazing, and you're technically reversing disease.
So this, it sounds like it has a detoxification component with it. Do you need to take binders when you sit in front of it?
No, that's what's so cool about it, because if you understand these processes in the body, that the cells will do all that work. It's pretty amazing to think about that, because the cells can do it through energy, and they can clear out these issues. But if you're doing it through supplements, then if you take a supplement that's aggravating, like a toxic metal or something like this, and helping to challenge the body, and then you need to bind it and get it out. And so because you're entering in that realm, you do need a binder. But with light therapy, it has its own mechanisms. It's happening within the cells, within the electrical aspects of the cells, with the mitochondria, and they're doing all the work, and they do the cleanup through basically miniature explosions. Singlet oxygen is so powerful. You could take a missile and shoot it out of the air, and that's what's been done with military settings with singlet oxygen. So that's and then it just blows up, and that's happening in the cells, and so that just happens. No need for the binder. And then it is killing parasites, by the way. Great clinical studies on parasites being killed with light therapy, parasites sensitive to light. It's getting cleared up within the cell. If it's intestinal parasites, then you're going to have to get the junk out. But if it's intracellular parasites, there are worlds within worlds that we're trying to work out, like what is actually happening. But those parasites, they're interfering with the stem cell production, and they're interfering with the mitochondria, and so you're actually getting to the root of that, and that's why we got amazing cancer studies with red light therapy.
Okay, so we've covered some of the practical stuff, and there's thousands of papers on the red light right now. Why don't you get a little sciencey for everyone out there in cyberspace so they can follow along? Like, let's do your specialty, Jonathan. I know you got a lot of information, and so break it down on a deeper level for everyone.
So Troy, to answer this, I'll go into firstly what are all the different types of conditions it works for, and then we can look at the mechanisms. Why would it work for this condition? Why would it work for that condition? People are going to start think it's going to blow some minds. Okay, so firstly, let's talk. What are the clinical studies on things that people care about a lot, like weight loss and fat burning, cellulite reduction? So there's all these different wavelengths will work for certain conditions like this. And in this case, the 630, 660, 810, 850, that's red for the 600s. 800s are in the near infrared. So you can't see them. Even though that light is shining, you're seeing what we can all see is the red, but we can't see the near infrared. But they're working by going deeper. You mentioned about 4 inches, and it does go all through the body, so even more than 4 inches, because the cells communicate once they get the light, but it goes through the body because of a chain reaction. But in terms of how deep it goes, when you say 630 nanometers, you're talking about convert to millimeters, that's 6.3 millimeters. And if I said then 850 nanometers, that's 8.5 millimeters, which is a lot smaller than 4 inches. But then when it gets to this layer and it goes through, and so you could see, like once you see these images, and we're showing them to you here, where you go into these deeper wavelengths, even the more shallow wavelengths, don't think that it's, only doing a little because it's only going a little deep. They're the only wavelengths sometimes that work for certain conditions that are very systemic issues. Like stem cell production is really good at 660 and it's good at the 800s as well. But you look at 480 and it's amazing for acne and skin rejuvenation. 1060 is amazing, like up the other end of the spectrum for eye health, even though there's lots of different wavelengths that are working for various conditions. And so again, look at these images. The 480 is going through the epidermis. Now 630 is going through the epidermis to the dermis. 660 is getting to the subcutaneous tissue, just kind of starting to touch on there. And then you've got 810 up, 850, 940, 980, 1060, and it's hitting the subcutaneous tissue, muscle, bone, and interior tissues. So now when you look at some of these, this information in regard to the weight loss, fat burning, cellulite reduction, cellulite reduction, you're hitting the cells. In case of fat burning, it's actually breaking open fat cells, which is amazing because that's also a toxin issue. And so then you're getting into detox, but then you're getting the cosmetic benefits. And that's why the clinical studies on that show around a 6-inch loss of weight in a 5 or 6 week period with doing nothing else. Like that's with people doing zero diet change. And so I'm saying absolutely, like, if you're working on these things, change your diet and do different things, dial in. But in this case, it was 6 inches lost as a measurement across the body just by the light, because it's breaking the fat cells and helping in that regard. So there are certain mechanisms of why this science is robust and why it's working. Anti-aging, acne, scars, rosacea. You've got the wavelengths that are effective for that, ranging from the 600s to the 800s. And then here's ones that people care about. A lot of people are obsessed with red light therapy and other light therapies because of hair growth, which particularly responds really well at 660, sun damage, wrinkles, fine lines, droopy eyelids, under eye circles, broken capillaries. They're scoring a lot of the red and near infrared categories, the 600s, the 800s. And then you've got pain relief, wound healing, injury healing from the 600s all the way up to even 940 and 980 working really well in the wound healing, injury healing, pain relief, as well as you look at muscle building, athletic performance, post-recovery workout, mental stamina, cognitive performance. So you can see the wavelengths that are working and that are proven to work. And others, the studies have just been done on those wavelengths, so we don't know whether the other wavelengths work or not. And others, they actually test the other wavelengths and it doesn't work. And they say, look, these are the ones that work. So it's really good for people to know this, because people just say, oh, red light, and they just think that, oh, it's going to work for this, but it might not. And that's why you got to have the education around the wavelength. So it's a really great kind of opening wedge there. Asthma, depression, anxiety, tinnitus, arthritis, multiple sclerosis, and you see which ones are scoring, which ones are clinically proven in studies. And you kind of got your time on the line. You're sitting in there, people may do as little as 5 minutes a day or something like that, but 20 minutes is amazing 3 times a week or every day if you can, or if you do 1 minute a week, like the Birmingham University study. It was on rats, but they showed that it increased cell viability by 45%, which means that the cells were 45% more effective and functioning at a 45% increased rate. Mind-blowing, right? And so
I have a question.
It was also regenerative. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question.
Regenerative of the spine and neuroprotective as well with that study. Go ahead.
Well, I feel amazing, but most of my exposure is the way I'm sitting right now. And so am I getting it on my eyelids and my face wrinkles and my hairline at the same time? Or do I need to face it? And do I have to have protective eyewear on? Or can I have it or not have it? Do I need 1 minute? Do I need 30 minutes? Like, what is the optimal?
Yeah. Okay, sure. So optimal. Okay, so firstly, here's what's cool. The cool thing is that Troy only put his back to it, and it still like gave him breakthrough results with him just being on one side of his body. And it proves what I was saying about the fact that it's a full body effect. There's a chain reaction. Once people start realizing this, they'll start getting red light devices and putting them up against their wrists, because it's actually going to pulsate through the wrist and the blood is cycling, and that's then going cell to cell, and that actually does work. But then people that really see the benefits, they say, well, why don't I get my body directly exposed? Like if our bodies were designed in a way where only some parts were supposed to be exposed, we'd have some parts that were like ironclad and they didn't have skin that was translucent. It's basically your body's actually telling you by just looking at it, and you're really good at this intuitive aspect. It's a translucent form. Like if we could almost see that light go through your skin, and you could, if you kind of pulled it out a bit and you really hit it hard and we looked carefully, you could see it irradiate and you could see your skin like glowing. You're sensitive to that. You're soaking it in. So therefore, you are best off rotating your body and getting every area of your body that you want helped. And then in terms of protective eyewear, then it is something that, like, for example, comes with, when people are shopping for these things, they'll typically come with these devices, but you don't have to use them if you're closing your eyes, because your eyelids then become the protective eyewear. So you can close your eyes and kind of be in that space, which arguably would have benefits because it's getting through the eyelid, which it'll get through the protective eyewear anyway, but you're just kind of easing that burden. That being said, you actually ought to consider looking at it for a certain amount of time, which people are shocked at. But the clinical studies are very robust on that. You've seen people like Dr. Andrew Huberman cite the studies on that, showing a 17% eye improvement in a week if people were doing it by looking into it for 3 minutes. But it had to be in the morning, and those results were particularly measured for people that were over 40 with myopia. And then somebody would say, well, I want more than 17% eye improvement, but you could get that because that study wasn't designed to show how you could kind of fix the problem. It was designed to give you a bit of relief that then lasted for a week, and then you'd kind of, was the yin yang, a yo-yo kind of effect, instead of the fact that if you just keep going on these types of things, your eyesight gets better and better and better, and then those results are more active for longer periods of time. Like the tinnitus studies are showing, one study showed 100% resolution, others with 30%. Various studies are showing different success, but over the fact that it was effective for 3 months. It's amazing. So like that light is effective in your body for a long time in some cases, but mostly, like, to really be in the remedial phase and regenerative phase, it's to make sure it's fully active, it's 48 hours. Like, so making sure you're getting exposure every 48 hours if you want to be in that regenerative space.
So great, because I'm in front of it at least once a day, and sometimes I'm in front of it for about an hour. And I do switch, and I'll stand up. I'll probably stand up during this recording as well, drop some trowel, and I've got a hip issue that I've been dealing with. I'm all about staying moving till the day that I die. And so optimization is everything I'm about. Jonathan.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Love that. And that's a great amount of time. And you can do an hour, by the way. You can do an hour. Typically, people show that as being broken up, like doing half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the evening. But there are studies that are amazing that 64 to 84-minute long sessions. The fact that they all went into remission using red light, well, there was 2 sessions in 1 week, 64 minutes, 84 minutes. Then all of them went into remission of acute symptoms. And then after 4 sessions, all but 2 out of the 62 had complete remission of all symptoms, which included respiratory, like oxygen levels above 97%, digestive issues resolved, neurological problems, including memory resolved. So it was a blockbuster study. And these were longer periods of time, very, very effective at clearing these kind of challenging issues.
And it needs to be right on the lungs or right on the brain, or it just like sitting like in front of it, like me right now. This is going to get to my brain. This is going to get to my lungs.
Yeah, because well, look, you could get to the lungs from the front or the back, but yes, and the studies on like lung fibrosis, actually even lung cancers. Great studies on red light therapy, lung cancer. Great studies with red light therapy with glioblastomas, with brain tumors. And they are like literally amazing. Like one conjugate study showed that there was an overall response rate of 87% of people with lung cancer showed significant improvement. That they were extremely responsive to that red light source. And that is particularly like if somebody was doing, like if they were doing, like say I'm working on my brain, I'm working on lungs, and they were hitting it with red light, and I said, is there any near infrared? And they said, oh no, it's just the red's great, right? And it's like, well, no, not for that. It's not deep enough. It needs to be near infrared. It needs to be 810, 830, 850, 900, 1,000, but not more than 1,200. Then you're out of the optical window. So not more is not better. It's like an archer that shows up and says, I'm the best archer, shoots an arrow way up into the air, goes so like way over the target. He's like, I'm a great archer. He's like, yeah, well, you're great at shooting that thing. And like, if this was like a javelin throwing contest, you'd be the best. And that's like far infrared.
Mm-hmm.
It's like shooting past the target. It's hitting your core body temperature, but it doesn't do anything of like what we're talking about. It doesn't do all these cellular functions. It needs to be that optical window, and then you're getting all those benefits. So yes, you're getting that into your brain, in the skull, and then yes, it is great to turn around. Even if you did more on your back versus your front, it's like it would balance itself out. But it's great to kind of do that rotation. Great to get it on the regenerative organs, your genitals. So because of the benefits, the sexual health benefits there, and nitric oxide is amazing to stop those problems that happen to most men as they age. Even young men are struggling with issues related to the bedroom. I'm saying that in ways that
so this produces nitric oxide and
yeah, there you go.
and helps with the limp wiener situation.
Absolutely. I would say there's probably nothing better that works with nitric oxide than light therapy, red light especially, and near infrared. Heavily proven to do so. It's all into the nitric oxide signaling pathways and cytochrome C oxidase, which is a protein it plays crucial roles in the nitric oxide and cytochrome C oxidase, which is it's a protein, but those conversations go together because they're very important for the it's deeply linked to oxygenation and how the body communicates cell to cell, how functions are improved from like heart, or that then surface with the bedroom and performance and things like that matter to
everyone. And so you were talking about wavelengths, and so does this particular machine that you recommended for me, does this one it has all those wavelengths?
It does actually, and that's actually it's hard to find. One, because it doesn't really exist. You're typically looking at devices that have a couple of wavelengths, like 2, maybe if you're lucky 3. And I'm talking about like big names. I was just with Gary Brecker. Their full body $130,000 get inside this thing. Like 3 wavelengths, 1 red, 2 near infrared, might be 3. Well, I think it's 1 red, 3 near infrared. That's 4 wavelengths in a $130,000 device. And I'm not saying that it has value, and those wavelengths are good wavelengths, but there are certain ones that are then really important for certain people with certain challenges, or things that you don't have that you don't want to have, so that you just kind of do it all in one. And so that's why we made sure to have all those wavelengths in those devices. So 480, 630, 660, 810, 850, 940, 980, 1060. So you're hitting everything at once. And it's just, that's because you think about the sun, it's kind of got everything, right? The sun has everything. The rainbow certainly has everything. You can see all the colors. Clearly, these things are all important for us. Even blue light, which is really shocking to people. The difference is that, like, a rainbow is not like, oh no, watch out, there's a rainbow, don't look at it, it's blue light, get your blue blockers on. People aren't saying that, even though it's blue light, and they were, but blue light's bad, right? We're like, blue light's the enemy, and ban all rainbows, right? But that's, you think, okay, now that doesn't make sense. And then the sunlight is, during the day, is heavily blue. So much of it is blue light. So then what's the problem? And it's the issue with the light sources. They're bad lights. They're just bad. And it doesn't matter what color they are. They're just bad. They flicker all the time. You can't tell.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Or I can reiterate some of the stuff that I heard from Dr. Jack Cruz. So the frequency that's coming out of the blue light, the non-native blue lights in fluorescent, as well as the devices here. My understanding is that the mob who had casinos in Las Vegas, they were figuring out how to empty their subjects' pockets. They not only did they pry them with alcohol, but also the frequency and the flicker of the slot machines and the light coming out of them hypnotized them and allowed them to be addicted to the dopamine and playing the game. And that technology, according to Jack Cruz, was transferred through the CIA into the Silicon Valley and all the Stanford research, and is programmed. Both Google and Facebook, I do believe, have the patents on this, and is programmed into these devices. And so maybe you know a little bit about this as well, but Dr. Jack Cruz on decentralized medicine, filmed in El Salvador in the last year or so. It was a pretty mind-blowing video, and it was very interesting. And I feel very drained when I'm on the devices without blue blockers, and I need natural light. The red light here, even though it's not natural coming from the sun, is very healing. I feel it. There's just a dramatic, I really feel it. But maybe you can speak into that a little bit, Jonathan.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it is interesting because you got the blue blockers, it's helping to replicate like a fireside type thing, especially in the evenings. And these things make sense, and they're good therapies. And but it's interesting that it's so important for us to understand that the color blue, that color in light, is not bad, nor is green, nor is yellow. They're actually all amazing, and light therapy is so important for us. And so it's great to put the problem where it is. And what you just shared was mind-blowing about like an actual agenda to get people addicted to things, and to hypnotize them, and to kind of mess with the natural order of things, and get people out of
balance,
their true selves. And exactly. And then the effect is that people's eyesight then is being destroyed. And so then what? And it's interesting. Then why would you have a device that has LEDs in it? Because then LEDs would, you'd think of them as bad. But what happened go back to 1903, when Niels Finsen won the Nobel Prize for lupus vulgaris and light therapy, and how that was helped to solve that problem and many other problems. And then John Harvey Kellogg then published Light Therapeutics in 1905, and showing thousands of cases of people putting various conditions in remission, etc. Then fast forward to 1967, Dr. Andre Mester then's on the map as the Hungarian physician using red light therapy. This then entered into the laser arena, people using lasers, and lasers had benefits, and there was good things about the lasers. But the problem is they were super expensive. Not like they could be dangerous. The heating issues, people then not being able to have the therapy for the time they needed because the heating was too big an issue. So then they introduced the flicker or the pulsation, things like that. But LEDs then came in to solve that problem, but they were not flickering. So LED is just light emitting diode, and there's nothing wrong with a light emitting diode. How does it emit the light? What frequency? How is it? Is it flickering? If it's zero flicker, that's an amazing light source, and it's going to be helpful. And then what nanometer penetration is it at, and how does that work with a certain condition? And to give you the basis on that, when you look at it was an in vitro study, so it was done in a petri dish, but it was using triple negative and non-triple negative breast tumor cells, and they irradiated with 4 different types of red light, and they were all red. And you say, well, it's just red, like should all perform the same. And in this case, it was 630, 660, 730, and 615. And then it was only 660 that could drop the cell proliferation by 40% in 24 hours. Irradiate it with light, 24 hours, they look at it, okay, wow, this cell proliferation has dropped by 40% in just 24 hours for both triple negative and non-triple negative breast cancer. So wavelength matters, and consistency of light matters. And you can't get around that issue. And so you should look at like making sure you don't have LEDs that are flickering in your home. You should look at replacing those with either blue blocking bulbs, look at incandescent, the bulbs that have been proven to be effective, tungsten, various sources.
Awesome. Well, I'm getting pretty saturated over here. And how close do I need to be to this device?
Oh yeah. So, and these are all great questions. So like you could be working out in front of it 2 feet away, and you would get a lot of benefits, and it would be very helpful, and you'd see the difference, you'd feel the difference. You could have it way on the other side of the room and have it on, and there's going to be some benefit, but it's kind of night and day still. And so I'm kind of, because people at the end of the day, you've got to incorporate a ritual. So you've got to kind of work out what's going to work for you. Like you got yourself on it by putting your back to it so you could do other things, and you started getting amazing results, and now you're in the game. And if that's all you do for the rest of your life and you never put the front part of your body on it, you will still get amazing results. So like, how do you find a ritual that will allow you to get in front of it? But 3 inches, if you want to be the closest to get the highest milliwatts per centimeter squared, you get 205 in that device as an example at 3 inches away from it. So you get a lot of energy into the cells at that point. 6 inches, similar, obviously just a little drop, but that also means you can be in front of it for longer. So there's ways to just kind of work out what's comfortable and how you're sitting. You can lie down, like, because that stand that's there, you could lie down with that. So it's really comfortable to do that. Listen to music, talk to a friend on the phone. It's not going to, like, even if you got a phone in your hand, it's not going to now, like, because there's 0 EMFs at 4 inches coming out of the device. It's not like it, sure, should you have your phone in your hand? No, but should you just be in front of that device and will work anyway? Like, it will. So it's just, but yeah, get your phone out of your hand if you can, put earbuds in, listen to something, call a friend, you get on the computer, watch, something. I don't know, like, for example, if you got your eyes open, you're looking at a screen, you got the light, I don't know, like, because there's no studies. I'm not going to say anything there's no studies for. So, eyes closed, protective eyewear, and in which case with protective eyewear, I would assume you could be on like your computer at the same time if you wanted to. But yeah, like, yeah, but then making sure you're getting all these areas, because often these areas that are most affected, like prostate, for example, or your breasts, think about those as being major killers for cancer, but those are the areas that are not getting into light.
Mm-hmm.
And, not many women that I know go topless sunbathing. There's not many beaches that accept that. I'm not advocating for or against, and it's just not really in the routine to go out, and then you'd then have to be topless or pantless, and I'm just talking about breasts and prostate at the sunrise and the sunset, and you might need that sleep in the morning based on kind of when your evening ended or whatever. So And then the proximity, it depends where you are on the equator, because I do want all the stuff that I'm doing, I'm educating. I don't want people to think that it's just about technology. I want people to get into the sun, but it's also important that people know that these results they're exponential. Like you're like a heliovore. You're in the sun a lot, but was there a difference between when you use the panel versus just being in the sunlight? Did you notice a difference between those two?
Yeah, there's extreme practical application of what I'm doing. I've had this device for 3 weeks or so, maybe 4 weeks, and I'd like to get it on my face a little bit more, but I have been getting it on my backside, um, and I feel great right now. I worked out today. I had a massage. My massage therapist went very deep. There's some recovery that I'm doing in my legs, my hamstrings. And so, like right now, it's making me feel great on my buttocks, right? I got it on my butt and I got it on my lower back, my kidneys. All that area feels amazing. It feels rejuvenated. So maybe you can speak into just some of the practical applications. Like, what does the research show on like the feel good stuff? I hear what you've said in the past about apoptosis and studies on cancer cells and lots of research on that. What's the practical application for your average person at home? Like, I get into the sun, I eat super clean, I do breath work, I do all the things to oxygenate and optimize my body. How is this going to, continue to help me? I already feel it, but maybe you can explain that, the benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and that's great. And these are the things that really matter, and they govern relationships. So, for example, if you're suffering from depression or anxiety, that's going to affect all your relationships. And so it's so then critical to focus on that. And so, what do you do and how do you solve that? And then pharmaceuticals don't really offer a real fix to that problem. They offer something that maybe can create some other issues. So amazing for red light and near infrared is amazing for seasonal affective disorder. Great studies on it with specifically with depression, specifically with anxiety, and 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 some of that comes through balancing hormones. So there's so many different processes as to why is somebody suffering in the first place, and you look at the studies on Toxoplasma gondii. That's one parasite that's common in the United States. 60 million Americans are touted to have it by the CDC. What does that do for mental illness? Well, if you have the parasite, according to clinical studies, you're 7.13 times more likely to attempt suicide than if you didn't have the parasite. So now, if red light is piercing through the cells and killing intracellular parasites or causing the body to produce reactive oxygen species to kill parasites and do these things, then that may be the reason why it was effective for you in beating seasonal affective disorder. Or it may be that you were having an issue with your thyroid, and the studies on red light with thyroid health had shown to be regenerative of the thyroid gland. And to give an application, for example, of a study from Tel Aviv, which was with heart muscle scarring, which arguably is the hardest thing. You could have something like myocarditis, but if you have once the scarring becomes it builds up, and then you've got this thick layer that it's so hard to break through, and that's what's causing the things that become then terminal issues. And so they used red light with stem cells, and the result was amazing. They had an up to 80% reduction in heart muscle scarring in a short period of time. So think in that same line, and you can do this with fasting, for example. You're producing more stem cells, then you put the red light. And there'd be an interesting pursuit around urine therapy because there's so much phosphorus in urine. I was doing the research just yesterday. It was like 750 milligrams of phosphorus per liter of urine. It's highly fluorescent. And that's deeply connected to ATP. Like it's all amazing. So then you think about what's going on in the womb with the babies, like drinking their urine. They're suspended in their urine, and then it's phosphorus. So much phosphorus in there. It's light. It's cosmic. It's amazing. Anyway, you don't normally hear me say something like that, but I just think it's so incredible. So these are the different mechanisms by which it's helping with all different types of conditions. You've got people that the weight loss, the fine line wrinkles. And so the studies on that are amazing, and people can actually take green tea and put it on their face and then get in front of the light, and it will help with it'll exponentially help with the reduction in the fine line wrinkles and bags under the eyes and droopy eyelids, and all of these are very well proven.
Does it help? Does that also help, Jonathan, with if you're doing, let's say, urine therapy and doing the red light, the topical aged?
Yeah, I believe so. Like everything else you'll see, I've linked and referenced this and that study. And so if we look at the prostate cancer study, 49% went into remission in the 2-year period. Is amazing. They use red light. They use the deep sea bacteria as the photosensitizer. Amazing. The control group was 13.5%. So if you didn't get the red light, you were at 49%, which meant that you had a 4 times greater likelihood. And they're doing all the other invasive therapies, which are also taking lives. And so I'll tell you that these studies show these photosynthesizers for these conditions. I believe that aged urine would be one of the most amazing things to do with the red light and infrared, because it is so helpful for various aspects. Like, for example, you got the phosphorus. Phosphorus can be a photosensitizer. You've got urea, which is increasing absorption. It's basically arguably the only clinically proven skin moisturizer of actually delivering water back into the body. Reason is because it's part of you. And so it goes back in, then that's going to naturally increase the absorption of light. Notice when you go out into the sun and when you're in the water, you burn more because it increases the absorption. Whereas, but urine, interestingly, if you put it on your body, you go out into the sunlight, it would be protective, and you know this better than anyone, protective against burning, but then also not block the sun and obviously help to absorb it more. And that's the whole concept of a photosensitizer. You're just helping the absorption of it. Stem cells naturally in urine, like 100 million stem cells in a 24-hour urine sample after it's aged for 3 weeks. Wake Forest study, we've talked a lot about that. It's an amazing study. So you've got all these stem cells, and yes, there's still, I'm actually working on some studies with some colleagues to really show the applications that we can prove things that would be amazing to be able to prove. But the stem cells are in the urine. So, and you'll have 140 stem cells in just a fresh urine sample. The fact that breast milk has stem cells in it shows that they're actually supposed to be consumed. God doesn't make mistakes or waste things or do stuff that's dumb. They're there for a reason. Even cow's milk has stem cells in it, but they're obviously not like necessarily for you. They're for a cow. But I'm not saying people should or shouldn't drink milk, but yeah. So I think that aged urine would be amazing, and I do use it, and I think it's great.
Thanks for getting me this device. I mean, I'm really enjoying it. I've been doing red light therapy for the last 5 or 6 years, and it's nice to have one in my home.
Oh, you're welcome, man. I was really thrilled just to see you just get results. I just always love hearing my friends get results using these kinds of using these devices. It just that kind of just everything else I do is kind of like, it's cool and it can be exciting, but that's rewarding when my friends get results and they feel good and their life is better, because you may be having like some great things going on, so maybe something's popping on social media, but your back is hurting and that's all you're really thinking about. And so I love that it was so helpful with your back, and that's really meaningful to me. So yeah, what would I want to say? I think that the key is when you learn about something like this, you've got an opportunity to get ahead of things. You have an opportunity. You're living in a world that has a lot of booby traps in it. So many. It's where do you start? There's so many problems, and so how do you deal with that, and how do you do things that are regenerative? So you hear about something like stem cells, and you say, "Wow, wouldn't that be amazing?" If only I had that extra 20 grand to spend every quarter. And some people listening have that, but interestingly enough, it doesn't work for most people. And I'm one of those guys, spending over $100,000 on stem cells, on family members in desperate situations, on myself, didn't work. And it can work, but yeah. So my point is that, what are your cells lacking that they need? So you just put more stem cells in. So it goes into the same problem, which was that your body lacks energy production. It doesn't. The cells don't have what they need. It's like saying, "Oh man, look at this." Actually, this is a good illustration. I got this farm, and I wish it would grow more. And so you've got all the seeds, but they're not growing anyway. So you go like, "Oh, throw more seeds in." You keep throwing more seeds. Is like, my plants aren't growing. Well, have you thought about using a fertilizer that's, suitable for sustainability for your crops? Oh, fertilizer. Have you thought about getting sunlight onto that? And so you'd actually even think about this more with your plants, or if you had a reptile, which I had once, then you realize they need to be in front of that light. And when my parents had my lizard like roam free, they thought it was great, and then it died because it didn't. It needed to be in front of that lamp. And even these lamps can be helpful for people. Um, but it's like, but all the studied wavelengths then becomes really fascinating and amazing. Then use devices in home that have the clinical studies that back them, so that you can have that confidence, because it's a donation of your time. You're giving up some of your time to do it. And so why not get something that you really believe in, that will have you committed to your success in that journey to get better. And on the stem cell regeneration, red light therapy, near infrared light therapy is proven to regenerate stem cells, to help the proliferation of stem cells, to help so that to be more in the body, and to help unhealthy cells to get cleared out, which then create the way for those cells to then take the energy that they need, because there's a limited resource. Like, it's not unlimited. The body will then channel that towards these new and healthy cells, and then it's feeding those cells with what they need to be more viable, like I've referenced in these studies. And then you're just having a better life, and you're way ahead. You'll feel better. All the different types of things that you've been dealing with, they'll all get better. And you can have a single device in one home, and it's like, a device like that, it has 100,000 rated lifespan hours, which is around 200 years, which is, I'm not saying it would last that long, but that's the rated lifespan based on that. And that's why it also is back with a 3-year warranty. These things, like, it's about then quality, and about having something that the whole family can use. I've got a family of 4. When people are visiting, like, what do I tell them all to do? Because I love them and care about them. They're visiting me. So if you think about stem cell regeneration, the fact that your body can do all of this when it's fueled with the right sources, what it needs, this information is critical. So you end up getting ahead of everything. So it's about 2 things. It's about giving your body what it needs so you can live the best life and feel good, and have cosmetic benefits, things that your friends say, "Hey, look, you're looking great," and that feels good. Your spouse, your partner, they're commenting that, or it's nice. It feels good. There's reasons that some of those vanity metrics are connected to deep things that, like, if you're turbo aging, you're going to show it in your face. So getting that answer directly to where it's affected, it's going to be a systemic issue. It's going to help. But the other side of all of this is the thing that is the part that I'm most passionate about, is about not seeing people suffer. And prevention is better than the CURE. I don't even want to say that word, right? The prevention is better than searching for an answer to then deal with a life-threatening condition. So get ahead of these types of things. And I think about how, lung cancer is one of those types of cancers. It takes more lives than prostate cancer, colon cancer, and breast cancer combined. And we're all breathing in these toxins constantly. Like the 2 billion tires that go missing every year, where do they go? And the answer is in the air. And we're breathing in these tiny razor blades, or all the toxins and problems in the things that are in our home. We're breathing them in. Whatever's getting sprayed, we're breathing this stuff in. How do you get it out of the cells? And so you got to work with the cells, how they work, how they remove junk, how they regenerate, feed them with what they need. And so we can live in this world and not be afraid, and be happy, healthy, and live good lives. That's what I wanted to say, Troy.
2 million tires go missing every year?
2 billion. No, hold on. Yeah, 2 billion. Yeah, let me grab that number. Ready? Because think about how many cars and how many tires are on one car.
Oh, there's a lot of cars, and there's a lot of plastic, and there's a lot of, and it's all in the oceans, and it's all in the air. And oh yeah, I'm very aware of this. This is the essence of my work.
Yeah. So yes, exactly. So it's 2 billion tires are produced annually worldwide. which what happens then is that where do they go? And then you'd say with little shards on the street, but that's not where most of it's going. Because they break down in like so gradually, they become airborne, and the air was tested in areas where there was like freeways, and they found it was all in the air. And it's super harmful. And maybe one of the biggest threats that we face is just one example. So you got indoor air pollution. Indoor air pollution could be 100 times more toxic than outdoor air pollution. So just like, how do you get ahead of all these things? Get toxic things out of your home, but then you can't really change the world that you're living in if you feel called to be in a certain area. Your family are there, whatever. You gotta get ahead. You gotta have things that will help you with that.
And so this will help clear out the cellular debris and help the cells optimize and taking out the waste. Well, this has been
Exactly.
This has been another great podcast with you, Jonathan. I really appreciate all your time and your efforts. And so where can people get one of these red light devices?
Yeah, well, and thank you, Troy. Again, I love our conversations. You ask great questions, and I love the way your mind works and solves problems. And I can't wait to see kind of how you integrate this with all the research and things that because it's about combining these things ultimately, right? It's about what are you putting in your body. And so I love all that data. It's really helpful for me. And so I'm excited about like what's happening for you in your life. So where people can get devices like the exact one that you have is from my company, which is Red Life, and it's myredlight.com. And so so you're seeing a full body panel that has all 8 wavelengths in it. Again, you really can't find them on the market, and because we had to do a lot of work, a lot of research and clinical studies sourcing from all the clinical studies to then produce this device and work with PhDs to customize and custom manufacture, FDA class 2 certified, all the important like check marks and safety studies, etc. But what we created was like world class, and the results are just amazing. Like I just love seeing like every person that gets this in their hands, and I have conversations with. Obviously, I don't talk to every person, but every person that I do talk to have a raving thing to tell me about, and it's often the thing that they cared most about. And so, whatever you're battling with, whatever you care about, you can learn more there's an extended webinar type film, like it's like 3.5 hours. It goes through all different clinical studies. If you want to learn more and look at different conditions and understand more science, and you're that kind of person, watch that. A lot of people, everything that they learn here, there's nothing more. Like that's me, even though I did all the research, obviously. But if I watch this, there's enough information for me to say, yeah, I'm going to try that. And then again, you've got like a 60-day money back guarantee. So it's like a trial, pay later kind of thing, in the sense that you've got 60 days to decide whether you want to keep it or not, and it's a no questions asked money back guarantee. So we've done like so many things to make it really accessible to people. The other thing is people say, okay, well, whenever there's a choice like this, you just try to work out, well, can I afford this? And then and we did something that I referenced some other companies that like you're paying hundreds of, you can pay over $100,000, for example, for a device that really doesn't have any different technology, like literally zero different technology. And in some cases, the one I referenced that was from colleagues that I respect, but they had less of like wavelengths that were really effective, for example. So how would you think about something like this? You're thinking about a lot of the clinics, the average is about between $80 to $200 per session for centers that have red light therapy. That's just, you put that into Google and ask ChatGPT for the average. So there's a lot of money spent there. And so one of the smart things to do if people on a budget is just to break it up over 6 months or 12 months and use the payment plan options. So you could be paying less than a single supplement. I got supplements here. I'd put one up on camera. You could be paying less than one single supplement to use a red light panel, and then that single supplement, because every month for a year and then a few years, it all adds up at the end so it ends up, one single supplement will cost you a lot more than that full body panel. Just do the math. You just use a calculator, and that's amazing, because at the end of it, you own it, and you own that for life, and there's no there's nothing else to do. Like, you don't have to put new things in it. It's not like a filter. You put new filters in. It's a one and done. It's like a lifer kind of thing. It's great. And the stand, all these things really help. And we threw in some amazing free gifts like the belt and supplements that help to act and facilitate in the photosensitizing process. A lot of these studies I mentioned, we're using various photosensitizers to help the absorption of light into the cells. That will really give you a great restart and detoxification and restoration.
Can you use methylene blue with this?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, you should. It's a great thing to use, and you could take, a milliliter, like a full dropper, or people who are doing even higher amounts. I would not be taking methylene blue unless you're using red light. I think it's like really not very helpful unless you're, and at least you take it and get out into the sunlight. But be very intentional. Have your full body, as much as your body is exposed as possible. Methylene blue is amazing to use in combination.
How much methylene blue do you recommend?
Well, I know that like a dropper full is, which about 10 drops, 20 drops. That's typical that people are using as maintenance doses because it's not fully natural. It is a dye. So it's something that we're excited about. It's very effective and helpful, but it's not something I'd say, use this every day for the rest of your life. It's something to more cycle. But it's still very safe. It's just understanding that it is a dye and just kind of understanding. But Dr. Daniel Newsom, a colleague of mine, he's talking about how he used 3 to 5 milliliters of it with his patients battling cancer as an example. And it does make sense because it's absorbing into these tumor cells and all cells. And so then it's helping that process. It's helping accelerate all of that. It's really quite amazing. So yeah, use photosensitizers.
It's helping to bring light into the dark areas.
There you go. Exactly. It is. And heavily proven to do so. Lots of amazing clinical studies on photosensitizers, especially methylene blue. Also curcumin, which really a lot of problems with curcumin is that you take it, but people don't feel better. It's because it's not available to the body, and it arguably needs light to activate it. And I would say that about almost all supplements, because a lot of people take a lot of things, they don't feel better. And to me, but you get in front of something like this and you feel better immediately, and you realize that everything needs to be activated by light, generally speaking, as a general rule. Berberine is amazing as a photosensitizer. There's some other ones like artemisinin, which is a malaria drug, but that's a photosensitizer. Green tea, some great things out there, Troy. And one thing to mention as well before we go is everyone loves to make additional savings to make it even more accessible. So for your viewers, they can use the code HEALTHNUT and put that in at checkout. That'll drop an additional 10% off off the already discounted prices, which are heavily discounted because we've got it, and that's part of the holiday special right now. So if you're watching this, it's a great time to grab it. And
thank you for that.
With all the other free gifts and bonuses. You're welcome.
Thank you for that, welcome. Jonathan. Can you reiterate your website?
Yeah. So it's very easy. myredlight.com, myredlight.com, and my Australian accent, light. myredlight.com. And then again, you can do more research and reading there on the page. It gives you tons of amazing resources there. And then you can look at all the different offerings, and there are devices just for the knees, for example, or face and hair with the caps, belts to go on that you can travel with, and handheld devices, and then the full body panel, which we've been talking about a lot. And so obviously if there's one thing that you're really focusing on, my strong recommendation on the full body panel. But all these other precision devices are amazing. And I can't tell you how many people we've had, like elderly people even, that have complained about having horrific back pain, and they've used the belts, and they've gotten they've turned that around. Again, this is an anecdotal case study, but they're out there. Have people come to me about these case studies, people's hair falling out, stops falling out using the caps, and their hair's growing back. And again, proof is in the pudding. People have to just try it themselves to see what responds to their body. It could do all these things for you. You have to try things to know what works for you. I've not yet seen light therapies not work. I've not seen it not work for anyone yet that says like I didn't see anything change. I've only ever seen people see things change, and then it can be very dramatic. And then others, sometimes it's like it's not as dramatic because they're not either using it enough or they're they don't have a device that actually works well, and that's typically the problem. So that's what I work to solve with this. And so yeah, again, remember, health nut is the code to use at checkout. And then we've also got amazing training resources and documentaries that we give away as free gifts there, and including the printed materials and all these kinds of things. But that research and learning is so critical, and it will be a game changer and a life changer. So it's all there, and I just want to encourage you, as you're watching this, to get resources that will not only help you but your whole family, your loved ones, your parents. Believe me, like this work I do is nothing compared to the work I do in just keeping my family alive, my children, my wife, my parents. In this day and age, that's my siblings, like every loved one I have, my friends. That's my like big thing that's really sensitive to me. Like, I care deeply about everyone that God has blessed me with in my life, and I care deeply about everyone that God is putting me in the path. But it's all connected. And so just be a part of that fight. Get this into your life, into your situation, and then share the light, and be a light on a hill, and share that with others, and help people get better. Almost everyone to some degree is suffering with something, and what if you could make it just that little bit better? And that's what I want to leave you with.
Good. Well, thank you. I'm just realizing my mom's been having some hip issues, and so I'm going to get her one of these. And so, Jonathan, thank you so much. It's always good to see you. Please let me know when you're out in Phoenix again. And I appreciate you coming on Certified Health Nut and sharing your gifts.
Thanks, Troy. I appreciate you too, brother. You're amazing. You're a blessing.